If you guys have seen any of my previous videos, you've probably noticed, like many of us, I don't have a ton of bench area in my shop. So today I'm going to be working on every woodworker's favorite project, a new workbench. Now on my workbench, I want to inset my table saw as well as my router. It's a big project and I'm super excited about it. So let's get handy. So I used about 12 2x4s on this build, so to start off I'm picking out the 6 best ones. These are going to be the longest, so I want these to be the straightest ones. Now my bench is going to be 66 inches long, so once I have the ones that I want, I'm going to mark them at 61.5. This will leave enough room for a 2x4 on each end with a 3/4 inch overhang for the top. Once I have 6 cut, I'm going to cut 2 more at 46.5. And once they're all screwed together, I'm going to measure diagonally to check that they're square. And then do the same thing for the top frame. Now these casters that I bought were advertised as 5-inch casters, but they actually sit about 6.25. So I have to take that into account if I want my finished bench to sit at 34 inches high. And once I got the measurement I want, it's over to the chop saw to cut the legs. To screw them on, I'm laying the bottom down and putting a piece of scrap plywood underneath the corner. This will make sure the bottom of the corner and the bottom of the frame sit flush. Then I'm screwing one 2x4 on each side, 3.5 inches shorter than the other one. Then it's time to slide on the top and screw it in place. Now this is the point I realized that the 2x4 I put on the top is in the wrong place. It's not going to allow for my table saw to slide in. So I'll just mark out its new location and unscrew it and slide it over. Then I can measure for the middle wall. Now I want this to fit tight because it's going to serve as structural support as well, so I'm double checking and triple checking all of my measurements before I cut. I drilled pilot holes with my 3/4 inch Forstner bit to allow for my jigsaw to slide in and cut the middle notches. Then I go to fit it up. I mark the frame where its final resting place is going to be. And just as I hoped, it's really tight, so I'm using a piece of scrap to hit with a hammer so I don't leave hammer marks in the board. Next, I marked out a piece of plywood for the wall that's going to sit in the center line where I moved the 2x4 from. This is also going to provide structural support, so I want it to fit tight. And with those two walls screwed in place, it's time for the last wall. This one's going to sit where the table saw goes. Once the third wall was in, it was time to flip over the frame and add the casters. I marked out the holes for the casters and pre-drilled them. Then attached all 4 casters. Then it was time to flip it back over and take it for a test drive. Then I locked a couple wheels in place and threw on a sheet of plywood for the top. Now I'm using a piece of the 3/4 inch scrap that I had left over from the walls to use as a guide to make sure I have the 3/4 inch overhang on each side. Once I have that sheet of plywood all screwed in, I could put on the top layer of plywood. I'm going to screw this one in from the bottom so that you don't see any screws on the top. So now that we got the basic structure of the bench complete, that's going to do it for this episode. On the next episode, we're going to install a shelf, cut a hole, and drop in the table saw. As always, if you liked this video or found it helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.